If John Akinde can rediscover his prolific scoring form of previous seasons, then Barnet can certainly get out of the hole they're in. New boss Graham Westley was thrilled to see the striker netting his 4th of the season. The former Newport manager's first game in charge was going well. That crossbar grazer from Ryan Watson. Danny Cowley made a double change at half-time for Lincoln, and one of the subs, new signing James Wilson, scored with his first touch in an imp shirt. In front of a massive away following, they chased a winner, but the home team clung on for their first point in 6 games after Danny Rowe rattled the frame of the goal.
We had a lot of cramps setting in second half, and the determination and the guts that they showed to stay in the game with that cramp setting in throughout the field was awesome. It's a wonderful sign for us.
Goals aren't usually in short supply at Kenilworth Road, but Luton struggled against Morecambe. Johnny Mullin's second half goal was the best the Hatters could manage. It ended up being enough. Morecambe couldn't capitalise on what was a decent performance. Stephen Auld off target as the Shrimps slipped to a first defeat of 2018.
Notts County haven't lost in the league at Meadow Lane since April, but Exeter were knocking on that door when Dean Moxey couldn't quite finish the job, but Jake Taylor could. Given that the Grecians had lost their last 5 games on their travels, this was all the more enjoyable for the Devon day trippers, and it got better thanks to a Jayden Stockley special. In fact, the Exeter number 11 came mighty close to making it 15 goals for the season and putting his side out of sight. Instead, the Magpies threatened to steal something out of the match when they crept back into it. Shola Amiobi went down in the area and their chances of a comeback immediately went up. But although John Stead did the business from the penalty spot, that was as good as it got, as County's 9-month unbeaten streak came to an end.
I thought they threw the bodies on the line and everything what just dropped. It just seemed to drop to a yellow shirt today instead of a black and white one. But as I said, I just thought the lads were terrific in the second half, but a lot to improve on from the first half.
Port Vale were in cruise control early at promotion chasing Accrington. Tom Pope inevitably in the thick of things. His 13th league goal of the season after just 3 minutes probably won't be making Stanley keeper Aaron Chapman's personal highlight reel. Chapman was made to look foolish again just before half-time. Michael Tong hadn't scored since August, but his driven free kick clearly took a deflection which left the goalie stranded. Accrington's hopes of getting anything out of this one looked pretty stranded too, but then Billy Key went to work, first supplying the assist for Sean McConville to pull one back early in the second half. No controversy there, but plenty of Vale anger 3 minutes later when Key himself claimed the last touch to bring Stanley level. Everyone in a black shirt convinced it was off his hand, but without VAR the goal stood. And then, just to really rub it in, Accrington completed an impressive turnaround when Key turned provider again and McConville applied the finish to keep Stanley's promotion push firmly on course.
Wycombe had lost all 5 of their previous matches at Crewe, and it looked pretty ominous when after just 6 minutes Nathan McGinley brought down Charlie Kirk in the area. Chris Porter had just enough power to beat Scott Brown for his 12th goal of the season. Either side of a heavy defeat to Preston in the FA Cup, Wycombe had won back-to-back league matches, and they were level when Paris Cowan Hall touched in from Adebayo Akinfenwa's header. Few in League Two have a better delivery than Joe Jacobson, and another free kick caused panic in the Crewe defence, a goal that outraged their manager David Artell so much he was sent to the stand. Nathan Tyson the scorer. That came on 84 minutes, but on 88 Crewe were level when Harry McCurdy scored on his debut. But just as they did when the sides met in September, Wycombe made it 3-2 in added on time. Craig McHale-Smith with the winner.
Match officials don't have it easy. Just ask referee Darren Handley, who would have his work cut out this afternoon. First, he awarded a penalty when Cheltenham's Mohamed Issa was brought down by Hayden White. Harry Pell was on hand to put the visitors in front from the spot with his 3rd of the season. Mansfield, though, had lost just once in their previous 14 in the league, and soon they were level when CJ Hamilton got on the end of an Alfie Potter cross. That was before everything got a little bit bad-tempered. First, it was the visitors who were reduced to 10 men when Taylor Moore was adjudged to have elbowed Danny Rose, and Hanley produced a red card for the first time in the game, and not the last. To make matters worse, in the aftermath, Robins manager Gary Johnson was sent to the stands for an altercation with Stags assistant boss Paul Rayner. And if you thought that was the last you'd seen of the referee's red, then think again. This second half challenge from White and the dismissal that followed even up the numbers. With Mansfield's numerical advantage wiped out, Cheltenham were able to take the lead again when Danny Wright found Fulham loanee Elijah Adebayo, and the 20-year-old netted his first goal for the Robins. But as the clock ticked down, the Stags would again show what's quickly becoming a signature resilience. With 10 minutes left, Oxford loanee Kane Hemmings stabbed home to bring his side level. After a brief interlude of goals, it was about time for the referee to get busy again. This time it was Cheltenham's Wright who was sent for an early bath after coming together with Potter. Now it was at 10 versus 9 in the Stags' favour, and they would capitalise in the 94th minute when Manny Onorese couldn't clear his lines, leaving Hamilton to take full advantage to seal all 3 points. And breathe.
I think that's our cue to do both. I mean, we've seen everything today, but all in that last game. I do want to just ask you, though, about Luton, another of your old clubs. I know when they flogged you, some financial problems at the club, but to see them turn things around.
Yeah, they've been faced with so much adversity over the last 10 years or so, and Nick Owen and his consortium came in at the time and stabilised the club, and it's really bearing the fruits of that now, and they've got a terrific manager in Nathan Jones come in and made a real difference to the club, and they finished 4th last season and looks like they're going to go one step better this
Fellow
season.
Welshman. Speaking of which, Ryan Giggs, new manager at Wales, right position, right job for him?
I think so. He's obviously been waiting for a big job, and say international manager doesn't come much bigger, but he's a global name and he's going to put Wales even further on the football map, so hopefully he can start well.
Yeah, perhaps another call-up, eh? 6 more games to come now, and kicking us off, the 2 teams just outside the top 7. Coventry City up against Swindon Town.
Maxime Biamou has had to wait all season for his first league goal for the Sky Blues, but when it finally arrived, I think all can agree it was worth the wait. Coventry are beginning to move nicely through the gears in League Two, as was Mark McNulty, until Matt Preston intervened. Referee Steve Martin didn't see the funny side, which meant McNulty from the spot and 2-0. But Swindon made sure they were back in it just before half-time. Ollie Banks on the score sheet in just his 2nd game for the Robins. In fact, the Wiltshire side might have been level by the break. Luke Norris was the man taking aim, and believe it or not, Lee Burge actually managed to get fingertips on that. If that was close, how about this for a what happened next moment? Chris Robertson, Kane Woolery and Banks are all still probably wondering how they didn't manage to score, which will have been even more frustrating when the home side did hit the target again. McNulty's 2nd of the match and 10th in his last 12. He and Coventry are on a roll.
Newport fans who attended this game were given priority to buy tickets for next week's FA Cup tie against Spurs, so it was no surprise that over 5,500 showed up. Porrick Hammond almost got them on their feet early on when he rattled the bar. Midfielder Robbie Wilmot would also get in on the act, finding almost exactly the same spot on the goal frame with this effort. The home side got the lead that their pressure deserved before the break. A superb cross from Brighton loanee Ben White found Hammond, who duly headed home. And just 4 minutes later, it was 2 when Josh Sheehan was brought down by Josh Lennon in the area. Crawley must be sick of the sight of Mickey Demetriou. This coolly taken spot kick was his 4th against the Red Devils in 3 games. Crawley got back into it minutes after the restart. Captain Jimmy Smith's effort was adjudged to have crossed the line via a deflection, but the Exiles would hold on to maintain their 100% start to 2018. Roll on Spurs.
Grimsby took their somewhat lurid 3rd strip to Essex, presumably in an attempt to turn Colchester's stomachs. Carly Osborne rattled the bar as the Mariners had their rivals feeling queasy. Grimsby hadn't won here since 1972, but it came as no surprise when they took the lead shortly before the break. Derby loanee Charles Vernham with his first goal in English football. But maybe Colchester eventually got used to that nauseating kit, because they came out with purpose in the second half and were level barely 2 minutes in. All a bit scrambled, but a finish of genuine quality from Sean Murray, who made sure with a top corner finish. Colchester are winless in 5 now, but at least Grimsby have stopped their run of 4 straight defeats. They could have won it too, but for a stunning save from Sam Walker to deny Vernham what would have been a worthy winner.
It was a stalemate at the Lamex where Stevenage struggled to create chances. Tom Pett's header for the home side was the best we saw from open play. Danny Granger's free kick was as close as Carlisle came. Suffice it to say, This was no classic.
Cambridge have generally struggled to score away from home. They got off to a good start today, though, as the men of Sean Derry were merry. Just 3 minutes in, George Maris on target. Should struggling Rovers survive their first season of league football, the goals of Christian Doidge will be a big factor. His 18th in all competitions got his team level. The U's were soon back in front as Mehdi Alito squeezed home from an unlikely angle. This was a real pendulum swinger of the first 45. Kids were at the new lawn for free, and they enjoyed the relentless action. Dale Grubb gave Cambridge food for thought with his team's second equaliser. The hosts pushed on from there. On his first home start, Grubb greedy for goals as he grabbed a glorious second to put them ahead for the first time. The shackles well and truly off. Mark Cooper's outfit never looked back from that point. After an error from keeper David Ford, Doidge got another, a far cry from last week when his manager accused him of diving, tongue firmly in cheek, of course. And the gaffer was salivating over this showing as West Brom loanee and debutant Tavon Campbell rounded off a memorable day.
Chesterfield will be hoping that last week's victory over table-toppers Luton can kick-start their season, and they took the lead here thanks to this Lewis Reed free kick. You wouldn't blame the Yeovil players for having one eye on next week's FA Cup tie against Man United, but Middlesbrough loanee Lewis Wing certainly didn't seem distracted when he unleashed this effort to bring his side level. The Spyrites, though, seem to have a newfound confidence, and when Reed picked Otis Khan's pocket and sent Christian Dennis through in injury time, the striker kept his composure. The same can't be said for Khan, who felt he'd been fouled in the build-up. He allegedly barged the referee off camera and was shown a red card. The midfielder, who's been the subject of a substantial bid from elsewhere, could face a lengthy ban.
Luton then are now 6 points clear at the top after their win and Notts County's defeat. Accrington remain third and only 4 points separate second to seventh. Barnet are now 5 points adrift at the bottom. The only sides in the bottom half to win were Forest Green